Thanks for joining us today. Of course, part of our mandate is to advocate to the government for support for the arts and culture. So that's why we're meeting today. And I think I'm going to turn it over to Cody because she's put together most of the meeting and the questions. So over to you, Cody. But I guess we all should introduce ourselves. We don't all know Todd Smith, so I guess I'll start there. Janet Gerald, Executive Director for Quinte Arts Council, and again, thank you, Todd, for your support in the past with all of the arts and culture events and heritage locally.
I'm Cody Trahangwa. I am the Communications and Media Director for the Quinte Arts Council. I run a lot of our online presence.
And I'm Heather Christensen, and I'm Program Director for Quinte Arts Council, and really glad to be part of this meeting this morning.
And I'm Lynn Parkin. I'm the Marketing Director for the Quinte Arts Council.
Perfect.
All right, so our first question. Ontario is a big province, but the locations people think of as cultural hubs tend to be very centralized, like the big cities. How will you advocate to help attract artists to your riding instead of the big cities?
Yeah, sure. Great question. There's a lot of people that are working in this area, including the Quinte Arts Council, the Prince Edward County Arts Council, folks like Mark Rashot and the Empire Theatre. I think, there have been a lot of acts that have come to the Quinte area. We punch above our weight, perhaps compared to some other smaller communities across Ontario with some of the amazing acts that we've seen come in here. But there's a lot going on in the Quinte region when it comes to arts and culture. We have so many people that have moved into the area that have that experience from the big city, and there's all kinds of different festivals happening. Certainly, we try and support as many as we can with funding through the various arms of government and the branches of government through the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries. Also, the Ontario Trillium Foundation. We've added a lot of new investment into the Ontario Trillium Foundation, which has helped a lot of those not-for-profits in the arts sector. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a good announcement down at a place called Healing with Horses Therapeutic Center, where there were a number of organizations in arts and culture that received funding through the Community Resiliency Fund, which was a new stream that we added during the pandemic. And then there's another stream as well, which I know the Quinte Arts Council received funding from as well. So knowing that it's been a very, very difficult couple of years with the pandemic, particularly on the arts sector, arts and culture sector, we've invested in the Ontario Trillium Foundation to help, support those agencies, keep them going, because we know how important that they are to our livelihoods and our culture here in Quinte, whether it's in Belleville, Quinte West, or Prince Edward County. So I'm always advocating with my colleagues at the cabinet table and in caucus to make sure that we're supporting the arts so that when we do emerge from the pandemic, and I say this about business all the time, but the same stands for culture and the arts as well. I think once this pandemic is over, and hopefully we're getting closer to that day, we're going to experience the roaring 2020s. We're going to see people wanting to go out to events again en masse and supporting their local artists in the region.
Good.
I'll unmute. So, yes, you're right that things are opening, things are happening. We're seeing events start. And we're also hearing a lot of promises by the government for regeneration after the pandemic. So one of my questions would be, coming out of the pandemic, the federal government has promised some infrastructure funding. And we are wondering what you could do, or what your plan is to do to support a performing arts center in the Belleville area.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this in the past, Janet, and the mayor of Belleville is a big proponent for such a center in the region, and just trying to determine where the proper location is for such a center. is sort of step number one. The way I always sort of treat these types of projects is as soon as the municipality and the Arts Council come up with the idea on where it should go and what it should look like, you know, I'll be right there 100% behind trying to find the funding that you need to make it happen. We recently, and this has nothing to do with the arts and culture, but I mean, you know, we recently just saw the foundation go in on the new Humane Society for Hastings and Prince Edward. And I'll tell you, there was no stream anywhere within the provincial government to support humane societies, a place for our cats and dogs. And thanks to Lisa MacLeod, who's your minister, the Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Industries, we were able to find a way to support that amazing project. You know, we know that her ministry is about supporting your industry, so it shouldn't be too difficult with me at the cabinet table, hopefully again, to be there and talking about the merits of having such a center in the Quinte region. There's so much talent in the area, you know, whether it's the Quinte Ballet School, and I know we just awarded them. It was the same day I visited you folks at the Quinte Arts Council with the Trillium Foundation grant. We went up to the ballet school, the Quinte Ballet School, and presented them one as well. But wouldn't it be great to have a stage that was the right size for the Quinte Ballet School so they could put on their incredible shows that they do? Nothing against the Empire Theater. We love it. It's amazing, but it's probably not big enough for a show like that. So, you know, if we did have a performing arts center like the one that you're dreaming of and planning for and talking about with the support of the municipalities, and I think there's a way to bring all three of our Bay of Quinte municipalities together on this, and perhaps Hastings County as well, to make this dream a reality for our region.
Happy to hear it. Thank you.
The Bay of Quinte riding encompasses many different and diverse areas and peoples. How do you plan to prioritize Indigenous arts and culture projects?
Yeah, I know Minister MacLeod was out across the province last summer talking about all of the funding that she's injected into Indigenous arts. I believe she made sort of the initial provincial announcement was up at Algoma, Manitoulin, at a facility there in the Sault Ste. Marie area. And then she spread out across the province, actually making announcements when it comes to Indigenous arts and culture and supporting those. So, you know, one of the priorities that we had as well was ensuring that on the Ontario Trillium Foundation and those other decision-making organizations within government that we had Indigenous voices there. I was able to get some folks from Tyendinaga Mohawk territory to participate on that decision-making board as well, so that you know, we know we have that Indigenous voice at the table, which is so important. And you know, I'm the Minister of Energy. I am until I'm not. You know, we want to make sure that when it comes to all of the energy decisions that we're making, that we have Indigenous voices at the table, that Indigenous perspective in decision making, and the same is very, very true when it comes to arts and culture. So in order for us to ensure that we're funding the right organizations, you need to have that voice at the table.
Good, good. Should arts and culture be a funding priority for the government? And what about the CBC?
Yeah, well, that's not our area. That's more federal, the CBC. But we are big supporters of what's happening with TVO. And actually, TVO has now become an integral part of our Ministry of Education as well. And it was, especially during the pandemic, using TVO and TFO, the French language broadcaster as well, to deliver curriculum to kids when they couldn't access it because of COVID. So they become much more of a partner, I would say, at the table with government than maybe they have been in the past. It's not a station, I'll be honest. I don't watch it all that much, except for Steve Pakin's agenda from time to time. But I know that kids every day are watching it, and they have been for decades. You know, I think in general, you know, we need to continue to support, you know, arts. It's very, very important. To answer the first part of your question, it's very, very important. It's integral to our culture in Ontario. And, we have many different cultures that are now part of Ontario's mosaic, if you want to call it that. And I've had the good fortune over the last 11 years to play a major role in caucus outreach for our PC party, and getting to know the different artists and community leaders, whether it's the Sikh community and the Punjabi or Gujarati community from India, and working with the inclusivity committee that Belleville Council has to have our first Diwali festival last year and introduce people in the Quinte region to the amazing Indian culture it was incredible. It was a very colorful affair. The enthusiasm, and this was in the midst of the pandemic. The only thing that was missing, and that's because of the pandemic, was the great Indian cuisine. And so this fall, when we have Diwali again, there won't just be the colors and the sounds. There's going to be an incredible smell wafting through downtown Belleville for the Diwali festival. That's just one example. There are so many in our region. And the folks at the Belleville Chamber do an outstanding job with the Waterfront and Ethnic Festival, and we've had that in our community for years. But the face of our community is changing. We have so many new Canadians that have moved into our region with their own unique cultures and the arts that go along with that. So I only see this growing, and we want to be part of that through our Ontario Arts Council and through the Ontario government.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit how you plan on prioritizing investments in arts and culture as an economic driver?
Yeah, well, it's key, especially in our area. There are so many that are in this sector. Whether it is Mark and the folks at the Empire Theatre and all the great work that they're doing, but people come to Quinte now. Not just for the beach at Sandbanks and some of the wineries that we have in Prince Edward County. They come to the Quinte region for the arts and the culture. So we need to ensure that we're supporting these organizations. And as I say, just a couple of weeks ago, we were out with Trillium Foundation grants supporting, on that day, the Prince Edward County Arts Council received a grant. Music at Port Milford, which is down in the southern part of Prince Edward County, received funding. And the list goes on and on. We've been able to support so many of our not-for-profit organizations over the last number of years through the pandemic to make sure that they're still there and able to provide entertainment and the arts and culture that people expect when they come to the region, because it is a big part of our economy in Quinte. We have a lot going for us in this region, including arts and culture.
Great. On our advocacy survey, you rated your position on arts and culture's investments a 10 out of 10. How will you prove that to people in the riding about your commitment to the arts and culture sector?
Yeah, well, I think I've tried to over the last number of years that I've been the member of provincial parliament, but specifically over the last 4 years that I've been in government and been sitting around the table with my colleagues, including the Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries. One of the things that we needed to do, and I did it in my sector at the start of the pandemic as Minister of Children, Community, and Social Services, was to be listening to that community, whether it was the folks in developmental services or children with special needs or our local service managers when it comes to social services, to try and understand what the challenges were. I know Lisa McLeod did that extensively with Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries, having webinars all the time just to understand what was happening and try to provide the type of support that you needed, not knowing how long the pandemic was going to last and what the impact was going to be on it. And it seemed like the sands were shifting all of the time, and which made it extremely difficult to have the events that we would normally be able to have. So just constantly listening and reacting. I mean, we're a government that wants to get it done, and we're a government that wants to support the different sectors, whether it be the manufacturing sector, the housing sector, the arts and culture sector. We want to meet the needs that are there, and so we'll continue to listen and act.
On the advocacy survey you completed for us, you said you believed a basic universal income would benefit people in the arts and culture sector. How committed are you to pursuing a basic universal income for the people of Ontario?
Well, this is something that we would have to discuss with the sector for sure. You know, we want to, if we were going to go down this road, this is something that we would want to get right. And so this will involve a lot of communication with the arts sector. You know, I think it's something that does require a further discussion. There's no question about it. We want to support our artists. We want to support those who are in this sector. And it can be challenging at times, particularly over the last couple of years. It's been extremely challenging. You know, as I say, we want to emerge and experience the roaring 2020s in Ontario and have our arts and culture bounce back and be a sector that doesn't require a basic income, where everybody can be successful and continue to thrive or start to thrive in some cases. So it's something that would require more conversation, but I'm definitely open to having that conversation with folks like the Quinte Arts Council and Prince Edward County Arts Council, if this is something that they're lobbying for as well. You know, it comes down to listening and understanding and seeing what type of a program may work best.
Awesome. Those were the questions that I had. They were submitted, some by our members online, some by us. Do you guys have any other questions?
Todd, do you have any questions for us?
No, I think you've done a pretty good job at reaching out to me. I'm really, really interested in seeing what you come up with on the Performance Center and how we can support you there in that quest. And as I say, Mayor Panchuk has been very, very vocal on this and many other things that we've been able to achieve together, including hopefully a fourth interchange off the 401. So I don't think you want to put it out in the industrial park, but there's probably a better place in Quinte that we could put a live performance center. So continue to have an open dialogue. I'm very accessible and look forward to talking to you hopefully after the election about this exciting project and many others.
Absolutely. Well, good luck with the campaign. We'll be
Thank you
watching
very
for
much.
our front door for a knock. Keep up
I'll be
with the
there.
steps.
I'll be there.
Great.
Thank you.
Great talking to you. Thanks so much, Todd, for taking the time today.